Thank you very much. The meeting is now officially started. My name is Councillor Ron Mushiso, and I'm the chair of the Chiswick Area Forum. I'd like to welcome all members to the meetings and residents alike, and I hope that many of you were able to speak with some of us and some of our stakeholders who were here earlier. And hopefully you received some useful information and advice. And as it's now gone past 7:30, we will move to the formal part of the meeting. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and will be made available for viewing on Hounslow Council's YouTube page in the coming days. For tonight's proceedings, as chair, I'll be running the meeting and inviting people to speak. And as we have a full and interesting agenda, I will endeavor to allow as many of you as possible to speak. Hopefully I'll speak less because I got a bit of a cough. But with that in mind, I would like to ask members of the public to wait their turn and not to interrupt people when they are talking. And comments during contributions of others, please keep to minimum away from the mic so that we can allow residents to be fully heard. As we have a large number of presenters and people present, it may, of course, not be possible that everyone here gets to ask a question. Well, actually looking at this, I think each and every single one of you, if you have a question, I'm sure you'll be able to answer. We'll be able to allow you to ask that question. It's not just questions, we'll also welcome comments as well. And so without further ado, I would like to get to agenda item number 1, which is apologies of absence, declarations of interest, and of communication. So can I go with apologies?
So apologies for lateness from Councillor Thompson.
So we have apologies from Councillor Thompson, who's running a little bit late. Thank you, Councillor Giles. Declarations of interest? Councillor Elmsley.
Just one. I'm a trustee of the Duke's Meadows Trust.
Thank you. That's noted. Thank you very much. Okay. On communications, I'm just going to change tack a little bit so that we can give some updates from the previous meeting that we had here at the Chiswick Area Forum. And I will also invite fellow councillors on the panel to give any updates that they may have regarding some of the issues and that they're dealing with since we last met. So the first update is from Hounslow Highways. If you remember from the minutes for the meeting from last time here, we had representatives, head of Hounslow Highways Strategy, who was here to take questions from us. He has since responded about some of the issues that were raised, and I can just read a few bits out from there, not all of it, because you haven't got all day. But the Hounslow Highways leafing program, in his response, says that it began in earnest in late October, and it focused on clearing town centres, mainly Chiswick High Road, due to the high number of trees in the town centre. The removal works of the published program of the roads began at the start of November. And in that, there were a couple of highlights, which included 5 dedicated teams consisting of 30 operatives attending roads that have high number of public and private trees and high density of parked cars. These teams were also supported with mechanized resources, including additional sweepers and to support swift clearance of the operatives to sweep trees away from the carriageways so the mechanics could clear more easily. It goes on with further, so I won't bore you anymore, but just to say that they have been active and they have been working. The second part of an update is to do with the council tax consultation, which I'm going to invite some of members here to hopefully add some bits to it, but this is from the Director of Finance about the council tax scheme consultation. Hounslow Council recently carried out a consultation asking residents to comment on proposals to amend the council tax support scheme from April in 2025. So the proposals would mean that some residents could receive more financial assistance with the council tax and some will receive less. The focus is ensuring families and larger households and carers that receive the vital support that they need. So the consultations was particularly targeted at those people who currently receive council tax support, and a letter about the proposals was sent to each recipient. And the consultations has recently closed, and the results are being assessed as we speak. So could I welcome any members to comment on that update? Councillor Emsley.
I'll just say one thing very quickly on this. So we, obviously yourself, Chair, and I asked about the stats around how many people in Chiswick had commented on this, and it was actually only 19 residents in Chiswick who commented on this consultation out of potentially hundreds of people who will be impacted. The consultation is closed, but these proposals are coming to overview and a scrutiny committee of which I'm a member in January. If you weren't aware of the consultation, didn't have a chance to comment on it, or weren't aware of the changes but would still like to put your views forwards, please do contact your ward councillors. There's still time for us to raise it if you have any concerns about how this will impact you. So consultation is closed, yes, but if this is the first time you're hearing about it, or if you didn't have a chance to respond to the consultation, please get in touch with us and allow us to raise it on your behalf.
Councillor McGregor.
Thank you, Chair. With regard to the actions as a result of this consultation, with the result of the actions as a response to this consultation, everybody here should be aware of the impact this has on people with lower incomes who are paying council tax, that if their support system is taken out, they will end up with a much higher level of cost at a time when inflation is still running highly, and at a time also when welfare benefits are under pressure. So I've been working very hard to try and ensure that the support scheme is maintained at full level. The consultation has been completed, but you could still send comments in, because even after the consultation date, the council is ready to listen and learn from what people have to say. The consultation itself has achieved some answers, but the response rate has been quite low. And I'm very concerned about those people in that bottom 25% of our society who find it difficult to pay the council tax in the first place.
Thank you, Councillor McGregor. Any other comments on that? Okay, leads me on to the last update from me, which is with not at present. Can you save that for the open forum? Thank you. Cabinet, this is about the Brentford Fountain Leisure Centre, and this is an update, Councillor Giles, and this is in your area, I believe. The Cabinet gave the green light for the community engagement and feasibility study to commence on the provisions of a new leisure centre to replace the Fountain Leisure Centre in October. A project team, which includes colleagues across leisure, public health, engagement and development, is now in place to support this work. And the Council carries on and says that it will also be undertaking a review and feasibility work to ensure that a new leisure facilities is fit for purpose and financially viable. The Council goes on to say that they are currently seeking feedback from residents, centre users and community groups to help shape the future of the centre. Councillor Giles.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mashiso. So, after nearly 4 decades of service, the Fountain Leisure Centre in Brentford is approaching the end of its useful life. And at the Cabinet meeting on the 14th of October, as been mentioned, there was a feasibility study that was greenlit. And I hope some of you had the opportunity to speak to some of the community engagement team this evening who had part of the consultation available. I should have asked them to leave some out. But there is an ongoing consultation on the future of Brentford Leisure Centre, very much a what would you like to see from this space, what would you like to keep, because while there is a Cabinet paper going to Cabinet in March, the Council would like to know what we as residents would like from the area, and the survey or consultation is available and live on the talk.hounslow.gov.uk website and will be open until the 31st of December.
Thank you, Councillor Giles. Now, one last comment on the communications is the Duke's Meadow issue that is going on at the moment. Do you mind enlightening the group and the people watching what's happening there, please?
Yes, issue makes it sound bad. I promise it's not. So yes, Dukes Meadows has received a little bit of the Community Infrastructure Levy, which is a fund made available by developers to, as it sounds, improve infrastructure in the local area. Some of that fund is being used to redo Promenade Approach and the Pump House, which some of you will have used between the river and Edenza Road. Other bits of the fund have been allocated to resurface Riverside Drive outside the cricket club, finally. But the reason that we're raising it is there is a consultation about what to do with the rest of the money, and particularly around Emmanuel Hollow, which is that area just by the new footbridge. The consultation, again, is available on the talk.hounslow website. That consultation from the council closes on Friday. There's a concurrent consultation from the Dukes Meadows Trust open until Friday the 20th, and that is on the Dukes Meadows Trust website. Please do write in with your views. There's a good pot of money available. It's a fantastic area, and I would love to hear what you all think so that we can make sure that we protect what is an amazing green space in our borough. Yes, talk.hounslow.org, is it, Gabriella? There we go.
I'm sure colleagues
but they can, yeah.
They could give those information across. Just to say thank you so much, Councillor Elmsley there. Some really useful work, and I'll commend you for the work that you have been doing there as well. So thank you so much. Okay, we now move to the first substantive item of tonight's meeting, which is an update from the community safety team and the local policing team. Could I invite my good friend, Mr. Zahir Qadri, the Community and Safety Team Lead, to begin by giving us his presentation. And then I'd like to also invite PC Story. And do we also have Sergeant O'Donnell here? Yes, we do. Wonderful. And yeah, so you can use the handheld mic or you can use the one on the desk, absolutely fine. So without any further ado, please, Mr. Zahir Qadri.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much to councillors, and thank you to all the residents for being present. My name is Zahir Qadri, and I am from the Safer Communities team at the London Borough of Hounslow. I've been an enforcement officer with the neighbourhood enforcement team since 2007. So I have a great experience in dealing in enforcement. But now I'm with the Safer Communities team. I'm here to tell you a little bit about what we do. It's a technical glitch. So, Safer Communities team come under the... Excellent, thank you very much. Safer Communities team comes under the Communities and Strategies Directorate. Currently, our team has Safer Communities coordinators. We have 2 complex caseworkers. We have a team of community safety patrolling staff or engagement staff. And we have a Safer Communities 18 to 25-year-old violence reduction worker. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what each of these roles are and what they entail. So our Safer Communities operational team leads, that's me, and I have my colleague, Edita. We are very much front-facing. I'm going to move out of the way so you can see the presentation. So we're very much community resident facing, and what we do is we deploy our teams out into those areas where there are hotspots. The hotspots are known from previous crime stats. The crime stats determine where we should be patrolling and investing our resources. We're always out and about. We're engaging with our communities. We're supporting crime prevention strategies. Currently, we're doing a lot of work around VOG initiative, which is violence against women and girls. We also deal with domestic abuse. So, I mean, our team is wide, yeah? Our Safer Communities coordinators, they are very much area-based. Now, what they do is that they engage with our stakeholders and our partners. They create bridges. We work together on crime prevention strategies. We use a partnership approach, as I've just mentioned, and that's about working with our police colleagues. We work with all the different London Borough of Hounslow departments, such as social services, adult care, the adolescent team, and also NGOs, so your charities and non-government organizations. And I'll give you one as an example. It's ARC, so we work very closely with ARC Hounslow, who advise on addiction and recovery. Then we have our Safer Communities complex caseworkers. The complex caseworkers look at ongoing cases where the complainant is known and also the perpetrator. So you can imagine there's a lot of work around like neighbor disputes and like the kind of neighbor disputes which grow into more of a crime or antisocial behavior element. But we try and nip it at the bud in the first instance. The complex caseworkers, they look at managing those cases. Those cases are ones which require a number of partners to be involved. So you can imagine the kind of meetings that we're having, which are very much multidisciplinary with different teams, to try and resolve the issues efficiently and effectively. We've got our Safer Communities patrolling staff. Now, if you see them in the high street or if you see them on the road, don't hesitate to say hello. We do get mistaken for an enforcement arm, but we're not. We're out there to reassure our community, to reduce the fear of crime, engage with our businesses, residents, and those who are using parks and open spaces. Again, they're not enforcement. They are there to engage and to provide that assurance and confidence. So just going back to the patrolling team, come January they'll be doing late night work, they'll be doing weekend work in hotspot areas. Such as Chiswick High Road, you'll have Hounslow High Street, all the major high streets, parks and open spaces. And they're out there to bring down the fear of crime and increase that assurance. We have an 18 to 25-year-old violence reduction worker. Now, here we provide one-to-one support for that cohort of 18 to 25-year-olds. We understand that crime is complex. Crime is dynamic as well, and we need to understand that people are committing offenses due to a number of reasons, and we try and unpick those reasons and try and provide a deterrence and try and provide a diversion. So whether it's helping that cohort, moving them away from crime into normal civic society, where they are very much good citizens. So trying to bring them away from crime and introduce them into work, education, employment. Get in touch with us. Don't hesitate. We are here for you. We're here to give you advice. I'm just going to read it out just in case. So our phone number is 0208 583 2503. Our email is community.safety@hounslow.gov.uk. We're also available, one of our officers, you can come and meet them at the community hub at Hounslow House on the ground floor on Mondays between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. Plus, you will find us at every area forum because we're here to show our residents and to have that accessibility. So we're always here for you, and you'll find us at the area forums. If there are any questions, I'll leave that to you, Chair, but I'm open for any questions.
Thank you so much. I think we will take some questions. I've seen an indication of a hand or two going up from the audience. So take a couple of questions from the audience, and then I'll come back to councillors here. Thank you.
I would just like to apologise in advance because I waffle a lot. In regards to your 18 to 25 cohort of like young people that you work with and stuff like that, you have, and obviously there's been incidents in Chiswick where you have younger children as young as 12, 13, 14, they're, excluded from school, they're not managed at home, they're going around making antisocial behaviour and stuff like that. And it's just the school that deals with it or families that deal with it. So would there be space, for example, for that 18, don't get to the age of 18 where it's like, it's a little bit not too late, but does that make, it's not too late, but why not start earlier when you can see what's going on? Because as you know, there's a number of kids, you get expelled, but with what? You're not doing anything to support that child or that family or the gaps or that disadvantage that they're going through.
I understand. Thank you very much.
Things like the council tax or, food banks.
Okay, no, thank you. We've got that point. It's very, very well put.
It's a really good question, and it's a really good question. So what we do, we actually start outreach at come 16, 17, because we know that people don't just turn to crime when they hit the age of 18. So that's why we do a lot of outreach work. We go to West colleges, West Thames College. We do open days. We have very similar to what you saw today in the marketplace. We have our table. We are always, like we're talking about safety plans. It's all about empowering youngsters as well. It's about giving them good choices, solid choices to make to keep them out of crime. We know that there's many reasons why people are in crime. Mental health, whether it's poverty, reading, lack of reading. So we want to try and bring those services, and we look at our charities and our NGOs who do fantastic work, and we work with those people in order to try and find solutions for that age group that you're talking about. But very much so, we attend the colleges, we attend the sixth form bases, where we have a similar market stall like you saw today, and where we have those discussions.
Thank you.
It was a great question.
Thank you. We'll take
I hope that answers your question.
another question. Yeah.
I'm going to be here until the end,
yeah.
so we can...
Can we just take, sorry, can we take another question, please, very quickly? Yeah.
Right, a friend of mine has been a perpetrator of crime. He's done a lot of thieving, he's served his time in prison, and then he comes out into the real world and tries to get work, and when it says, your previous employment, he says, I've been in prison, and then he's just shut out. Now, a lot of them that come out, that have been in prison, reperpetrate, don't they? But is there something in place whereby they don't have to go back to crime?
I'm not sure that's your question for you to respond to. Perhaps we'll save that. Yeah, I hear your point, sir, and perhaps we'll save it for a little bit later, because we have some other items are coming that may be able to cover some of those concerns. But I hear you. Unless PC O'Donnell wants to add something to that?
Yeah, I would say that's probably more a probation. So it's not really a policing issue. It's more of a probation that does work for offenders that have been released. There are schemes in place to help people that have been released from prison and to get back into work.
Okay, thank you. But we'll hopefully come back to that a bit later. We'll take one more question, then we'll go to the councillors.
Yes, I just wanted to add on to what the other lady said at the beginning about slightly younger children. You did say 18, then you brought it down to 16. I would have thought from about 12 these days was important, and I don't know whether you have any access or can do anything to children of that age. Not do anything, I don't mean that. I mean work with any children who are younger, because I would have thought around 11 or 12 when they're starting to use drugs and they're getting into kind of cliques, that's a danger age.
Yeah, so 12's probably too old, I would say. We go for even younger. So even today, we were down at Grove Park Primary School. We went down with the police van, parked up outside. We had a queue of children coming up, climbing in, turning the lights on, just engaging, getting the children positive impact of police. Let them try on the hats and helmets. We're running, as neighbourhood teams, we're running talks within primary schools, secondary schools, around stranger danger talks, internet safety, particularly around grooming, like online grooming or gang grooming as well. So we go even earlier than 12. We go from primary school and we get into the primary schools and get the children engaged with policing at a much younger age.
Thank you. We'll just take one more question at the back, and then, Gareth, if you don't mind then presenting a little bit of what your update has been, and then we'll ask our colleagues here on the front desk to ask a few questions, follow up. And of course, as well, Mr. Kadri as well, if you can stay put. So last question, then we're going back to PS Gareth O'Donnell.
So you mentioned that there were services that are available in the borough. So my question is, number one, were they invited? So those, were any of the services invited? And number two, you have Brentford Football Stadium. They offer programs for young people who are NEET. What relationship do you have with them in terms of ensuring that young people are supported back into work, employment, or some kind of skill training?
That's a great question. So, as I was talking to, if we rewind back into the presentation, there was a bit about stakeholders, and that's what we do. We very much work with all of our stakeholders, businesses, residents, NGOs. We're doing a lot of work at the moment with Brentford FC. They also have a youth arm. They do great work with our youngsters. I know that there's projects in Feltham that are currently being done and undertaken. That was the first. What was the second question? Were they invited to this meeting? I do know that in other area forums they are present. So the one I could think of off the top of my head right now is ARC, and ARC come to the majority of the area forums. So that and that's also something you could take up with the organisers.
Thank you. Just to respond to that, they do get invited to a few of these meetings. In fact, we had Rihanna Development here today, and including the presentation that will come later from W4 Youth, who are come here to tell us what they do in the community. So yes, the answer to your question is yes, they are invited, but we can't obviously invite everyone every week or every month. But thank you so much. So can I go back to Police Sergeant Gareth O'Donnell, who will just give us an overall update as to, since the last time we were here, what his work and his teams have been doing over the last 3 months, and what's the future for us in the next 2 or 3 months after going into the spring.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Sergeant O'Donnell from Chiswick Safer Neighbourhoods. So I'm the sergeant that covers all 3 of the Chiswick wards, so Homefield, Riverside and Gunnersbury. Each ward, for those who don't know, each ward has its own team, which is a mix of police officers and police community support officers. We've just got back to full strength. We were 1 police officer short on Riverside. We're now back up to full strength, so each of the wards is now fully staffed. An update, so last time there was a lot of issues raised around robberies against school children. That was a big concern people were having. We launched an operation to target the robberies against school children. Since we launched the operation, there's been a drastic reduction in robberies, probably more than 90% drop in robberies against school children, and wider, there's been very few robberies within the Chiswick area. We are seeing, this time of year, we always see an uplift in things like theft from motor vehicles and burglaries, which we're seeing again. We're looking at operations. We're going to be doing some operations around burglaries and theft from motor vehicles. We need to work with the council, looking at maybe at signage, because a lot of the break-ins in cars we're seeing are people leaving bags on back seats, and a lot of the time it's just a gym bag that's getting stolen and thrown down. We're doing a lot of joint operations. So today we were down on the high road. We ran with the council, we ran a safer business and safer shopper day. We had a mix of the safety, the community safety team out, the wardens. We had all the Chiswick teams were out on the high road, patrolling the high road, engaging, handing out leaflets. What else have we been doing? We have been, as I touched on, we've been doing a lot of engagement with the schools. So primary school and secondary school talks around, obviously focused on the older kids. It's focused on safety around things like being victims of crime, of grooming, of robberies. The younger kids, it's more about getting them to understand about stranger danger, online safety, because they're moving in. Children now are getting younger as they're going online. So going into next year, we're very busy at the moment. We're doing a lot of targeting violence against women and girls. So we're doing operations this month as well because of the Christmas period and Christmas parties. So there'll be more presence out on the high roads around the licensed premises, engaging with the licensed premises to make sure they're adhering to things like the Ask for Angela scheme, where women in danger can go to the bar staff and ask for help effectively to get taken to safety. So we've been engaging, making sure there's training running from the licensing team. The police licensing team are training the pubs and the pub staff in how to manage those situations. I think that's probably about it at the moment, if anyone's got any questions.
Thank you very much. If you just press that red button. Councillors, may I come to you now before I go back to the floor? Anyone with an immediate question to ask? Councillor Croft.
Thank you very much, and thank you both. If I could just a quick note to PS O'Donnell, just to say that my experience recently of police response in Riverside has been excellent, really responsive team, getting on top of issues really, really quickly, and I think that's a real credit to the team, so thank you very much. I just wanted to ask, if residents have concerns around, and this is for either yourself or Zahir, if they have concerns, is it better for them to go to their ward councillor? Is it better for them to approach you individually about concerns? What would you prefer? Which is the best way for residents to communicate?
Thank you very much, Councillor Croft. So to contact the Safer Communities team, you can call us or you can email us, is the easiest way. I'm happy to give you the details again at the end of the Q&A. But yeah, you can email us, or you can telephone us, or you can approach us at the area forums as well. We also do the hub on a Monday morning, which is on the ground floor of Hounslow House. So you'll always find an officer there, and you'll always find us at the area forums as well.
Thank you. Councillor Gill. Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon.
Sorry, I'll just touch on that. We often, one problem that we often have is people will report crime to councillors, and the first we'll hear of it is an email from the councillor saying that this member of the community's contacted me, they've been a victim of crime, and when we look, there's no report for it because they haven't reported it to us, and the councillors obviously will contact us, but that team might be on rest days, they might not be in, they might be on holiday, so it can take like a week sometimes for us to get these, and then we have to try and pick the bones out and work with us. So it's best if things are reported. And again, sometimes we get reports sent to our ward mailboxes from people trying to report crime. And again, they're not monitored 24/7. So what we encourage people, if there's a crime, is report it, either phone 101 or report it online, or 999 in emergency, obviously. And then if it's something they feel they need to take up with the councillor, is to also contact the councillor. But particularly antisocial behaviour can be reported online. It gets sent through to us. Any antisocial behaviour that gets reported will get put onto a report. It'll be sent through to me to then pass to the ward team to deal with. And we see a lot of it where sometimes we come to like the ward panel meetings or the area forums and people are saying, why is nothing being done about X, Y, Z? But we've never been told about it. So without being told about it, we can't deal with it.
That's a very good point. Thank you so much for clarifying that. Councillor Gill, please.
Thank you both for doing a wonderful job. Sergeant O'Donnell, you mentioned increase in burglaries and break-in in cars. I mean, to what extent has it increased compared to previous quarter? And the response from the general public is they do report, but unfortunately the police do not either follow up or do not turn up. I mean, so so I just need to know an update whether this is continuing to happen, or do you have a 100% response rate these days? You have not mentioned about shoplifting, because I think shoplifting is quite a huge crime in Chiswick. So is that on the rise, or have you managed to catch the perpetrators?
So shoplifting it's a tricky one because a lot of the shops won't report it. Even when it's hundreds and hundreds of pounds, we go in, they say it takes too long to fill the forms in, nothing gets done. Very briefly, the process for shoplifting is if they report shoplifting, there's a thing called op retail. They get sent an op retail pack, they fill in the statement themselves, attach the CCTV, send it back. Most of the shops won't do it because they don't have time or they don't know how to access their CCTV. They just get closed, the cases get closed. We don't, as a neighbourhood team, we don't deal with the shoplifting. It's dealt with by an investigation unit. So I haven't got crime figures with me. As I said earlier, it's this time of year, things like theft from motor vehicles, burglaries will always go up. It's just the nature of it. The darker evenings, police are busy with other things, with nightlife, things like that. So there's been a noticeable increase, and it's not just Chiswick, it's the surrounding areas. We share the office with Acton, and they've got exactly the same thing. They've seen a big increase. It's people coming in from out of areas. They come in on the e-bikes, balaclavaed up. They're very hard to deal with, very hard to stop. We are targeting it. The shoplifting, we're trying to target the main offenders. There's a particular group of people who are substance abusers. We're targeting them with criminal behaviour orders. Probably the worst offender of Chiswick, we will be getting a criminal behaviour order put on him shortly, which we're hoping will have some impact. And as I said, there's operations planned and in the process of being planned around the theft from motor vehicles and the burglaries as well.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bidoff.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a question for each of them, if that's all right. For Zahir, we've called before for a civilian force to patrol the streets in much the same way as Hammersmith and Fulham has, so it's good to hear that your team is going to, or the team is going to be focusing more on engagement rather than, you didn't say rather than enforcement. My question is, how are you going to sell what the changes are with the team that you've got? It's smaller than Hammersmith and Fulham's team, which is 75, I think, because the reputation of that team is that it is going around enforcing A-boards, enforcing licensed areas, all of which is important and has to be done, but they're not viewed as being crime prevention officers or removing the fear of crime. They're just seen as doing a completely different job. So how are you going to sell that change, if it is indeed a change, to residents?
Thank you very much, Councillor Bidoff. So you're talking about the law enforcement team, which they have in the neighbouring borough.
Hammersmith and Fulham has a law enforcement team, but I think you mentioned something in your presentation that looked very similar. And we've been told by the cabinet member that they're doing the same job. We just don't see the evidence of it doing the same job.
Thank you. It's very much a new initiative. Our officers have just started patrolling and doing the beat come August. So in August we were able to actually send the officers out. We've already seen a great change because our businesses are engaging. I can give you a really good, simple example where enforcement did not have to be used. Enforcement for us is a last resort. First, we try and engage and we educate, and through that, if if all the avenues have been exhausted, then it would be an enforcement approach. But through our interactions, so the example I was going to give was, you have Hounslow West, which was attracting a lot of ASB, as one of the businesses had benches outside. And during the night time, you'd have all the street drinkers. It was in the cover of darkness. But through our intervention and through our engagement, we were able to get the premises holder to remove the benches, install lighting, control access to the land. So, at the moment it's working. We need to give it an opportunity before we, I think about the larger teams that our neighbouring borough has. It's working, and our officers will be doing late night patrols as well, weekend patrols. It's a small number at the moment, but one which is likely to grow. So just watch this space, I would say.
Thank you. In the meantime, benches are being installed in Chiswick, so I think there's going to have to be a bit of education there between departments. There's whole programs for bringing in new benches in areas that traders feel will become drug dealing corner, for example. But I'm not expecting you to answer to that. That's just a...
No, sorry, I'm not talking about public benches. I was talking about a restaurant-style bench which was attracting the undesirables, and that was on private land, and we were able to have those removed simply through education. So, that engagement level with our residents and with our businesses, it's a high priority for us.
Thanks. I'm not sure that overnight sleepers are going to think, oh, that's a restaurant bench, I mustn't go on that one, I'll go on this one instead. I think that's
well,
nice.
If there is a problem, Councillor, you can raise it with us, and then we will hopefully find a resolution.
Yeah. Thanks very much. Thank you. Now, moving on to Gareth, if that's all right. Are you going to tell the local media the good news that you bring us today about the reductions that you've seen? And again, I don't know why it happens. I'm in several resident WhatsApp groups, and at least once a week there's a message about something was stolen from my car last night. It was a bag that was on show. How can we educate people about this very simple thing of not leaving anything on show, and perhaps leaving the drawer where you might put your change or whatever open so people can see that it's not worth breaking into? I don't know is the answer. In terms of shoplifting, I was going to ask the question, and Councillor Gill has done that to an extent. I think the difficulty with reporting, we know that chains don't like to report. They have their own routines, and we heard at a public meeting, meeting with traders, that is, of course, an invitation to come back, and I don't think that message has got through. Lighting reductions. Everybody knows that good lighting deters crime, and we've got a paper coming to Cabinet next week, I think it's next week, which is calling for reductions in lighting across the borough, particularly between midnight and dawn. That can't be right, can it? If we're trying to get crime down, we should be improving lighting, not reducing it. Sorry to give you a difficult one last.
So lighting, I would agree, after midnight, most of the crime we see in Chiswick, robberies and motor vehicle crime, does tend to be before midnight that we see. The reason that they like to do that is that because they're on the e-bikes, they like to do it when there's traffic around, because if there's no traffic, it's easier for us to chase them in cars. So they tend to do it. They're more brazen. They do it in the evening time when they can just shoot off through the traffic and we can't catch them. But I would agree with the lighting that it is better to have lighting all the time, because you have got people walking around. It does encourage crime. So from a policing point of view, we would prefer to have more lighting. The shoplifting, I'd say my experience is the other way around. The bigger chains tend to report things more than the smaller ones because they're using technology now. So there's apps apps called like Aurora and Disk, which are like crime recording systems, and they can record it on the app on their phone, and it attach the CCTV, and it pings off, and it's like a retail intel system, but it also then creates the crime report as well, and it sort of links up crime, and it uses AI technology, facial recognition. It's very clever stuff. It tends to be the smaller chains that don't want to do it because for them it's not the time it takes to do the reporting. They have to go on the police website or phone up and sit on the phone and wait and report it. It's helpful for us when they do report it because it gives us time frames of when the peak crime times are. So we do encourage all the shops, when we speak to the shops, we do encourage them to report it just so that we can identify those peak times to increase patrols around those times. With the motor vehicle crime, it is difficult. It's trying to educate people. I go through, every time I come in, I look at the 3-day crime figures for Chiswick. I look through them, I see the motor vehicle crimes, I click on it, and it's more often than not, it's my gym bag was on the back seat, the window was smashed, and the bag was on the floor 6 feet away because the person opens the bag up, goes, oh, it's a gym kit, and throws it on the floor, and then they move on. So tonight, before we came here, we were going around, we were leafleting cars. We've got like the motor vehicle crime leaflets. So we've identified there's 5 probably hotspots, particular hotspots around Chiswick where the crime's happening, including the leisure centre, Sainsbury's car park, up around sort of Turnham Green area. So we're targeting those with leaflets. I've been into Sainsbury's tonight to speak to the management there about getting some signage put up in the car parks, just that vehicle thefts happening in this area, just to give people, I think it's probably good, and it's something I need to take to the council to discuss about getting signage in these hotspots, because it's people leave their bags or they leave things out on display and they don't think about it, but if they see that sign, then they might go, oh, actually, I'll just quickly chuck that in the boot and hide it away. So I think that probably would make a difference, but I imagine there's probably some politics around getting signage, who would pay for signage and where it would be put up and where it's allowed to be put up. So it's something that needs to be discussed, I think, with the council.
Thank you. Just a short supplementary. In terms of reporting online, there was a period a couple of years ago, obviously before your time, when there was very low confidence in 101 because the wait was so long, and very low confidence in the online reporting because it wasn't reaching our ward teams, and that was discovered and proven, as it were. Has that changed? Is that now better? Can people have more confidence in those two methods of reporting?
Second question from Councillor McGregor.
Okay, very quickly, and I'll give the floor back to Councillor Biddulph. The questions I was going to ask have already been dealt with. So I just want to thank Mr. Kadir and PC, Police Sergeant O'Donnell, for coming this evening and for being so clear about what you're doing. And particularly back to Zahir Kadir, because giving the details of how to contact you is a huge, huge issue. And because then if people know that they can actually contact someone directly at the council using that number, it's perfect. And the final thing I want to ask is, back to Police Sergeant O'Donnell, the custody suites. Are we still in Chiswick having to send people from Chiswick to the custody suite in Hounslow, or are they able to move across the command and be sent to the custody suite at Acton Police Station?
So Hounslow is part of West area, so that's Hounslow, Ealing and Hillingdon are clustered into like a super borough. So the custody suites we have at Acton, Hounslow isn't even open. It's used as it's still there, the Hounslow custody suite is still there, but it's only used as a backup suite for like operations, or if one of the other ones gets closed for some reason. So the two custody suites for West area are Polar Park, which is Heathrow Airport, and Acton. We use those as the primary ones, but often they'll be full and we'll go to Hammersmith or Collingdale or Kingston even. We can go all over the place. But Acton, or depending on which side of the borough you are when the person gets arrested, it's usually either Heathrow or Acton that we use. And, oh yeah, so anything that gets reported, the new system we've got, although it's got a lot of teething issues, anything that's reported for Chiswick will come up on the searches that we run. So myself and the PCs will do it for their wards, I do it for all the wards, and we look at like the 3-day crime figures, and it will just bring up a list of all the crimes, and like the antisocial behaviour, anything like that, anything that's been reported will come up on a list for us to go through. So it does come back to us. Anything that's deemed like neighbourhood related will be sent to us or flagged up to us as well. It can be like marked up for us to see. And just quickly going back to you said about sharing the news for things we do. So we use the Nextdoor app, and we use Twitter as well. A few weeks ago we did a cycle op on the high road where we were stopping cyclists and e-bikes going through red lights, and we seized an electric motorbike, and that had like 35,000 views on Twitter. So we do that, and we go through the media team and things like that as well.
It just would be an idea, I think, to use chiswickw4.com.
Thank you, Chair.
For
Thank you.
an update.
Thank you. We're just going to quickly go to the floor to have any questions there, and then we'll come back to Councillor Giles. Team, can we get a microphone to the floor? Is anybody else has a question on the floor? Okay, we just have one question, and then we'll come back to... Oh, we have 3 questions. Okay, can we...
Thank you. Just a quick question. When you were talking about hotspots, are there any hotspots on the other side of the A4? Because Chiswick tends to be a bit forgotten over there in the Grove Park, Dukes Meadows areas.
Good evening. I'm a neighbourhood watch coordinator for Chaseley Drive in Gunnersbury. I haven't been called to a ward meeting in about a year. I want to know the reason why that's not happening. And the other thing is, OWL has finished. What is going to take its place? Because we're not getting reminders of things going on in the area.
Thank you.
So OWL's finished. Nextdoor is used. Is probably the main one to use. For the ward panel meeting, I took over in June. The last ward panel meeting for Gunnersbury was prior to that, and my understanding is the chair for the ward panel left. So it's in the process at the moment. I think Councillor Biddulph might be able to help with that. It should be coming back up again shortly, the ward panel meetings. I think it's in the process of a new chair being arranged, and hopefully it shouldn't be too long until the next one's put out.
That's correct. We're trying to find a chair for the group.
Yeah, so that was a very good question that you've asked. What makes a hotspot is the question. And it's the number of crimes that are reported in that particular area. So what we would do is we would encourage our residents to pick up that phone and, to report the crime. Once that's reported, it comes up on our stats, on the police stats, which are shared with the local council, and then that will be determined a hotspot. So it's just about people reporting, yeah.
One more question in the audience there.
Yeah, forgive me, it might be 2. You mentioned when incidents are reported, do you actually then confirm that you've got that in your system and send people sort of a communication back? Or because I think there's a problem with people feeling things are hanging in the sort of ether somewhere. And what's the general process that you go through?
So when you report, you should get it'll ask for your phone number or your email or both. Once the report's put on, it will then the system should generate an automatic message with a crime reference number, which
so you'll get a handshake, basically. You'll get something back from the system.
You'll get some sort of confirmation back with a crime reference number once the report's been put on, and then you should then get an update on what's happening, whether the report's been closed or whether it's been passed to someone to investigate.
And the other one, forgive me, you mentioned e-bikes as enablers for car crime. Have you got any data on that?
I couldn't give you figures, but it's from the intelligence that we have and the reports that we see. The thing with the car crime, most of the time it's, I've come back to my car and the window's been smashed. The times it's reported and we see it, the large, certainly a high percentage of them is people on e-bikes with balaclavas.
Yes, yeah, okay.
So it's not all of them, but it's certainly a high. The ones that we see where there's a suspect seen, it tends to be. And when we get calls in of suspicious people, more often than not, it's on people on e-bikes, or sometimes it's just pedal bikes, but generally they'll be on some kind of transportation to get away.
Okay, thank you.
All right, just back here to Councillor Giles.
I wasn't going to ask this, but seeing as you mentioned the leisure centre, Gareth, so here this is more a question for your team, and I'm very conscious that you may not have the answer, but back in June I raised a case to request CCTV at Brentford Fountain Leisure Centre, and was told by Dwayne that this was going to be raised with the Safer Area based community meeting, but I've heard nothing since. Could I please get a follow-up on that at some point? Thank you.
Oh, Councillor Croft, you had something to say?
Sorry, just a very quick point for the gentleman's question about OWL. I'm on the Safer Communities Partnership board, and there is something else coming. I can't remember what it's called, so it's not very helpful, but there is another app I think that we're looking to use. So as soon as we have details of that, I'll share them with everyone.
Okay, it just leaves me to say, firstly, thank you so much, Mr. Cowdery and PC O'Donnell for coming. Hopefully you can stick around for a little bit longer. We've got another very, very important presentation to come. But just one thing I would add, in our ward, I recently saw CCTV footage from a resident of a man in a balaclava at 9 o'clock at night on Park Drive in Chiswick, Gannesbury. And what he saw from the footage that he received on his phone was the minute the lights came on in his front garden, the perpetrator went away. So if you are the Safer Neighbourhood team, couldn't I suggest that we go door to door, asking residents perhaps to put a deterrent such as that in their house, rather than just the high street? Because I think we look at Wavington Avenue just behind us here, a lot of crimes being reported, but we are not going door to door. So instead of just being around the high street and the hotspots, is that something that you are willing to explore, going into residents door to door?
Thank you very much, Chair, for that question. Yes, the answer is yes. It does again depend on our resources and the capacity. At the moment, our team is patrolling hotspots such as the high street and parks and open spaces. As you can imagine, parks and open spaces cover a vast land acreage, let's say. So yes, that is something which we can. We do actually do visual audits. So like, you know, for vulnerable residents, we'd go to their premises and we would advise and guide as well as support. So when it comes to methods of shoring up your premises, having lighting, controlling access onto your land, having the Ring doorbell or something similar, these things will protect you and act as a deterrent. You can never prevent, you know, there'll never be a prevention, but having a deterrent at least can safeguard you, your family, and your property.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that, gentlemen. We now move on to agenda item 3. This is something that we've been waiting on for quite some time. For some reason or another, it kept being put back. But I'm delighted to say that we have finally secured Sally Shachkat, who is a representative from W4 Youth. And she's here to do a presentation and tell us about the work that they do. And hopefully you'll be infused about the options they have for young people in our borough. And hopefully we can take some questions from them and seeing how else we can better that service. So Sally, please take it away.
Thank you, Councillor Matisho, and thank you to the other councillors for inviting us along and for you all for coming along this evening. So I am Sally Chakotay. I'm the founder of W4 Youth, and I'm the CEO, the fundraiser, the programme manager, and everything else that goes with it. So we set up about 15 years ago. Really interesting points that have been raised this evening. We're based out of Southfield Recreation Ground. We have young people coming from Hounslow Borough and Ealing Borough. And since we've been in our activities in the park with lots of lights, lots of activity, lots of people, the amount of crime in the park has reduced significantly. So the light point, I think, is a really key one. But also we cover ages 10 to 19. And I think the point that was made about young people and when you can create those interventions with young people was a very important one. We know that that time of transition from junior school, so primary school, through to senior school can be a massive transition, but it can also be a make or break of whether you go on the right or wrong path when you're getting into that senior school situation. So I'm going to be talking about W4 Youth. As I say, we cross both boroughs, both Hounslow and Ealing, and we work very closely with the Southfield Safer Neighbourhood team. I think you're co-located in the same office. We have a great group of people there who work with us very closely. So what I'd like to do is to share our story. This young group of young people, my son is in there, he's now 29. This group of young people was taken in 2010. In 2009, in January, my son, who's in that picture, was shot in the face by a gang based in Grove Park in Alexandra Gardens. At the time, it was a very unfortunate situation where he was literally going to pick his friend's football kit up to go to Rocks Lane to football training, and these young people between the ages of 16 to 20 had an armour of guns. They were the local drug dealers, the local dog fighters, and a very challenged group of young men between the ages of 16 and 20. I know so much about them because one of our young people who now comes to our activities, his father was actually involved in the gang. And he told me that if you were in that vicinity and you were a young person who was older than age 14, you had to be in the gang, because if you weren't in the gang, then you were in a really difficult position. He wasn't involved the night that it happened to my son, but as you can imagine, to have your tall, willowy, sporty 13-year-old shot through the face with a bullet that ended up just below his ear was quite something to happen to our family. It was awful. I can't explain to you what that felt like when I got that phone call at work to say, come quickly, your son's been shot in the face, it's really bad. That will stay with me forever. It made me shudder just then. The fact is, though, that these sorts of things do happen, and you don't think they're going to happen to you. This is Leafy Chiswick. Does this sort of thing happen in Leafy Chiswick? Well, it did. We didn't know who they were. We didn't know anybody like that. But the fact is that they may have known my son. He was in a situation before that happened at school. He went to Chiswick School where somebody had been stealing from him, and that boy was excluded. He didn't get the boy excluded. The teachers saw the boy stealing from him, but apparently the rumour had it that his older brother was in this gang. So we will never know whether it was something that was targeted or whether it was something that was just because he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. But what I do know is that what came out of that is a young man of 13 who went on to have PTSD. He had 3 years of hell. He couldn't cope. He didn't want to be around any longer. He kept running away, and he had the most traumatic teenage years. But what came in the middle of all of that was his idea to start a youth group. And we were on holiday at the time, actually, a few months after this happened to him. And he said, Mum, what we need to do is we need to start a youth group, because then all me and my friends and all our friends' would all have somewhere to go that was safe. But also, if people like the people who did this to me had somewhere good to go, and someone like you, then maybe they wouldn't have done what they did to me. And so that's where W4 Youth began. So we've had a massive impact and reach over the past 15 years. We've had hundreds of young people coming through our doors. We're very aligned with Chiswick School, we're very aligned with Ark Acton, we're very aligned with Twyford School, and all the primary schools around. And we've had over 6,000 attendances at our clubs this year. We run activities 4 nights a week. We're currently based in Southfield Recreation Ground in 2 porta cabins that have been donated to us, and we use the church hall over in St Peter's Church Hall on Southfield Road. We can only serve a fraction of the community that need our activities, and at the moment we're looking to build a community centre in Southfield Recreation Ground. Our activities are wide-ranging. We're open 4 nights a week. We do football training 3 nights a week from 5 till 7. Our floodlights were up tonight and I was up there. It was jolly cold. We do that 3 nights a week. Then on Friday nights, we have a Friday Night Fives. And I'm delighted that Rihanna Development are here tonight, sitting in the middle there, because they come along to our Friday Night Fives. It's all part of the Rocks Lane Friday Night Fives, but ours is a community Friday Night Fives. So we engage local youth clubs to come together. And we've got 2 leagues doing that, and we do that on a Friday night. We also have arts, so we have street dance and musical theatre. We run that in the church hall, and we use an organisation called Ghost Dance for our musical theatre and street dance, and we use an organisation called Lula Sports for our sports coaches. So we've got a really full range of activities, and it's really important that we engage young people from age 10, in my view. It's age 10 when they start to actually learn about bigger things that are going on in life. And if you can catch these young people at age 9, 10, as you were saying earlier, then that's the time to catch them to come through activities. Just tonight, we had a young man come along and another young man come along who apparently has been excluded from school for potentially holding some form of weapon. These young people are in year 7. So this is what's going on in our community, our society. That was what happened this evening, and the fact is that we don't take what goes on outside of W4 Youth into W4 Youth. Both children are welcome, but the fact is that these sorts of things are happening at very young ages. One of our young men was apparently being groomed by a gang from Southampton. At age 8, he was being given weed, and he was being given the wrong direction to take. We've managed to grab hold of him. He's now coming through our system, and thankfully he's on a really good path. He's moved schools, he's moved home, but he still comes to us a number of nights a week. So it really is important that young people are engaged from a very young age in activities with organisations like Rihanna Development, like us, like other youth providers, to actually give them something in addition to school, in addition to what they do outside, to give them the right path in the future. So these were a few of our young people, and in terms of activities, I've talked about them. In terms of the young people, I've just got a couple of testimonials to share with you. One of our young coaches was actually in a gang, and he came to us when we first started in the park a couple of years ago. We used to be in St Peter's Church Hall all the time, but a couple of years ago we got our porta cabins. And he came to us and he said, look, I'm in a lot of trouble, I want to get out of it, and I need an organisation to help me get out of it. He is now one of our coaches, and it was really interesting. The Safer Neighbourhoods team were actually down with us in the park a couple of weeks ago, and one of them said to me, cool, I know him. I've had to raise his family's house a couple of times. And I said, yes, but he's not on that path anymore. And I then got them talking, and it's just a delight to see this young coach working with us. He's totally out of trouble, and he's now working with us 4 nights a week. Another young man who's on that picture, one of those pictures, his dad had a tragic accident and fatal accident last year and passed away. His mum was so worried about him because his mental health was really in a difficult place. He wouldn't come out of his room, he would only look at his phone screen, and he would not do anything. He then heard about W4 Youth. He came along, started coming to football. He wasn't a very good footballer. He's now one of our star players, having been with us for 2 years. And he's about to start our Train the Trainer programme, which is a new programme we're starting in January, to actually give young people the opportunity to become coaches with us in the future and with our partner organisations. Another story of one of our young people who's in a totally different part of the community. We have young people from every part of the community. And this young man, very wealthy parents, unfortunately, what that brings with it is that he is in a situation where he's incredibly privileged. However, His mum and dad are in a ghastly situation, and what that brings with it is some really challenging mental health issues that we support him through daily. So we have people across our community. We have other people, some who are refugees. One little boy came to me last week and said, "I can't stop crying." And I said, "Why is it you can't stop crying?" He said, "Because I don't know where my mum is." And apparently his mother, who had come to the UK with them, has now left the UK. He doesn't know where she is, and he only speaks to her once a week on FaceTime. And now we understand why he's feeling the way he's feeling, and we're working with him to manage his emotions. So just a few examples of some of the young people we're working with, and I know that Rihanna Development will have similar cases. There are cases across our community of young people needing support, and that's what we're there to do. So we've got a number of great partnerships. We're very closely partnered with Rocks Lane. Rocks Lane run our Friday Night Fives with us. We're also putting a bid in to the Football Foundation to create it's not a 4G pitch apparently, it's a 3G pitch. It shows what I know about pitches, but there is a 3G pitch application going into the Football Foundation so that for the park in Southwood Recreation Ground, we have a new 3G pitch that will be floodlit, and we'll also have a basketball key there as well. And that will be run by us and Rocks Lane if it goes through the bid stage, gets planning permission and is built. They're also working with us on our community centre. Rocks Lane have partnered with us to support us to raise the funds to actually get it through the planning process, and once we've built it, they will work with us to actually run the community centre. For us, it's all about integrating young people into the community. Our youth model is not just about having young people together, it's having young people and engaging them in the community. So our long-term plan is a community centre where our young people come together with every part of our community, children, babies, old people, everybody in the same centre. As I say, we have partnerships with the people who provide our coaches, Ghost Dance, Luda Sports. Young Ealing Foundation's a wonderful organisation in the same way as in Hounslow. There are fantastic organisations that bring not-for-profit organisations together, community organisations doing youth work together. And also we obviously rely on our funding and grant-making trusts to provide us with our vital funds. And obviously our community supporting us with volunteering and donations. Thank you for your time and listening to us. We'd love to hear from people who'd like to support us, whether that be with young people coming to our activities, whether that be organisations to partner with us over the work that we're doing, or whether it be that people are interested in volunteering with us. If you'd like to contact us, the best place to go is to our website, and the address is there, w4youthorg.org.uk. Follow us on social media, or actually I'll be here for a little while to answer any questions. There are so many wonderful organisations doing the type of work we do, and we can only do that with the support of the community and the residents in the boroughs in which we live. So thank you all. And I'd like to just play a little film of our young people, some of our wonderful young people telling you what they think about it all.
W4 Youth began because of people like I used to be, who were on the wrong path. W4 Youth got me back on the right path, and now helping to give others in our community the opportunity to reach their full potential.
Everyone needs a chance in life. A chance to play on an even field.
No matter who you are or where you come from,
or what you look like, or what you do. To find a place where you can feel safe.
Where you can grow and create both body and mind.
Where we are all the same, where we are all equal.
It takes people to nurture their young.
For a stronger future from a stronger community.
And W4 Youth needs your support to invest in the future of the next generation of our community, supporting young people to reach their full potential.
Thank you very much.
Wow, yeah. Could I go to the floor, if there's any questions on the floor there first? Rogers from Rhiannon Development, one of the partners.
Thank you very much. Mine is just a comment, not really a question, but really to thank Sally W4 Youth and to echo what she's just said, because we've just partnered with them doing the football, and some of the young people who had a lot of issues in terms of their self-esteem since they started going for the football. We've just seen how they've been uplifted. Keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Rogers. We love partnering with you and all the other youth organisations across West London. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, so whilst everyone's digesting it, I think we've got a few more questions there. But just wanted to say, obviously, how delighted we are with the work you've done. I've been following you for the last 2.5 years to see how far we've come and how many people's lives we've changed. I think the key to youth, someone who's grew up in a youth club like myself, the impact that you make, some of you won't be able to see it, but you know we've made loads of positive changes to people's lives just by you being there. So I hope that residents and councillors here listening to that presentation would do their utmost to make sure that groups like W4 Youth are well supported. So thank you again, Sally, for the work that you are doing now and in the future.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Gill.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you for the presentation, Sally. It was absolutely wonderful, and for doing such a wonderful job, you know, engaging with the youth, which takes the youth away from the streets and gives them something to look forward to, which is what is needed in the community. And I think you're doing a fabulous job. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Go, Councillor Giles.
Thank you very much for the really informative presentation. I've just got 2 questions. What is the gender split of your attendees? And what is your funding model? I see that you've had a lot of corporate sponsorship, so just understanding what the model is regarding corporate sponsorships and maybe private donations, or how that's made up. And yeah,
yes,
thank you.
Of course. So gender split at the moment, it's about 2/3 male, 1/3 female. The sports tends to be male dominated and the arts tends to be female dominated. We're starting female girls football in January, so we're looking to rebalance that, and then we want to have our female footballers joining our Friday night fives from the summer term onwards. So that's the plan. So very much a focus on that. In terms of our funding model, we apply for grants from trusts and grant funding organisations, as well as corporate relationships and personal donations. After Christmas, we're about to go out large to the community and to local businesses so that we can start to garner support for our community centre. But our day-to-day running tends to come from funds and grant providers with some community donation.
Thank you. Councillor Amesley.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. At the risk of repeating everyone, what an amazing and inspirational story and amazing inspirational work you do, Sally. I always love seeing W4 Youth at the markets on the high road. They do some dances there. I think we're very lucky to have them. And I know Alexandra Gardens is in my ward, and I know that the kids there are so lucky to have this outlet and this group to go to. So amazing, inspirational stuff. I guess a question: if we know someone who would benefit from this group, or if there's a school that knows a student who would benefit from this group, is there a pathway that you could recommend? How do we refer them, if you like, to W4 Youth? What's the best outlet for us?
Yeah, the best thing to do is just send an email to w4youth at yahoo.co.uk. I man that. I sort of answer that email, and so I can then point people in the right direction, or they can just turn up. Our activities are on our website, so people can just turn up. A lot of people do just turn up, and we get referrals from friends of friends, and people just turn up. So yeah, either way. But our website has all the information and all the information about the clubs and the activities. Thank you. Thank you for your kind words as well.
Thank you, Sally. We go to the floor.
Have I turned it off?
Yes. Thank you so much for a really moving and a wonderful presentation. I think I may have misheard where you were based. Did you say Southall? Oh, was that in the Chiswick area?
Yes, so it's off of the avenue. So if you go to the top of the avenue, Southfield Road, and it's in Southfield Recreation Ground and St Peter's Church
Thank
Hall.
you. That's all I wanted to know, because I was going to say if you were in Southall, it's a long way. Is
No,
there
no,
anything
no.
more in Chiswick?
Southfield.
You are.
That's my
Thank you very
slurring of my words. I'm sorry.
No, I misunderstood.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much, Sally, for presenting that. We now move to the next part of the agenda, which is the open forum. Sally, I hope you can stick around towards the end. We could maybe take a picture with the councillors, if possible. But we're going to move now to the open forum, and this is for you and us to discuss some of the items that are on your mind, any questions that you may have raised directly with me prior to the meeting starting, and any other items that may have come up during this first part of the discussions. So I've been given a question here. However, I cannot read the handwriting. I'm a teacher. I should be able to read this handwriting. But may I ask the questioner to perhaps read or reiterate, roughly paraphrase what the question was about, please? I think it was about CPZs. May I invite Sam Hearn from the audience?
Thank you, Ron. Yeah, I don't write things very much now. Chiswick Riverside now has a wonderful new piazza in the summer. It's taken a long time to get there. The last phase of the project was to replace the parking signage. And my question is why the restricted parking times had to change. I've had no real sensible explanation for that. Previously, there was a half-hour free parking, and they were the same, as far as I'm aware, there were the same parking restrictions in the rest of the CPZs which surround that area. In other words, from 10 till 12, you couldn't park unless you're a resident. Now it's from 9 till 5. There's no free parking, but you can pay for an hour. So it looks like we're trying to exclude motor vehicles from parking in front of the shops unless you want to pay. And I think, as all of you will know, just one street away from there is a single street which has raised over £17 million worth of fines for Hounslow Council. So they don't actually need any more money from people, from parking fees. It's just why? Why do it? It was unnecessary.
Thank you so much, Sam Hearn. I believe this is something that was raised in the recent Borough Council meeting by Councillor Giles, is that correct? Councillor Giles, do you mind responding first to Sam Hearn?
So I think we need to be asking for a review of the signs there because they're not correct. I've tested this myself, and the 30 minutes free parking still exists. It's just not on the signs, and because it's now by phone, you wouldn't know if you don't know the area. That's the issue. There was a consultation earlier in the year to review the CPZs in Grove Park, but I missed that piece about the extension of the hours from 9 till 5, so I will go back and clarify that point. John, do you have anything else that you want to add to that?
No, not at the moment.
Okay, great, because it sits on both wards.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Croft.
Yeah, so the 30 minutes, as Councillor Giles says, is a free parking time. There are notices going up on the Grove Park notice board around that. I have spoken to the council about putting signage, but it doesn't fit with what they're doing elsewhere in the borough. However, for people that don't want to use the pay by phone app, there are plenty of pay by, I can't remember the name of it again, I'm forgetting names of things today, but you can do it in the stores so that they don't need to do it online. And again, that is being put up in the notice board in Grove Park so that residents are aware.
Thank you. I've got another comment on this particular item. Okay, can we go there first, please?
Just a quick comment on the area we're talking about, the new sort of piazza. There is only one disabled parking bay. I'm a disabled driver, and I go to the chemist the whole time, and I notice that there are an awful lot of customers who are elderly and disabled using that chemist, and a lot of older people also have difficulties with paying for parking by phone. So there has been, I think, a restriction for those people in that area, and I don't know if it's very clear. I sometimes can find a space, sometimes I can't, and they're never quite wide enough, because if you have disabilities, you very often have to, open doors wide to get equipment out and all the rest of it. So if anything is being looked at again, maybe that could be something that the powers that be could be made aware of. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bidoff.
Yes, thank you. Can I just clarify, are you a blue badge holder?
I'm a blue badge.
Yes.
No. Sorry. A lot of elderly people going there are not blue badge holders.
Yes.
But there is only the one bay,
Yeah.
and people who don't have blue badges park in the disabled bay anyway.
Yes,
and
quite.
And they've reduced the amount of space.
People with blue badges can park in any space and on yellow lines in the borough.
Yes,
so that is an opportunity. I understand your point about needing more
but it's
space.
The closeness as well.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I could park 2 streets away on a yellow line, but I want to be close. And I'm just thinking of people that I see going in and out who haven't applied for a blue badge. A lot of elderly people don't.
Yes, well, they're not eligible.
And who can't use the phones to park. And there is, now they've reduced the spaces.
Okay.
If it's looked at again,
thank you.
Perhaps
Thanks.
that could be something you're aware of. Thank you.
Councillor Giles, yes.
Just to follow up on Sam's point, there was a letter that went out on the 28th of November talking about the removal of the 1 hour maximum stay period and their consultation. So it's being changed. As a reminder of the summary of the change, and the reason is, concerns have been raised that the current maximum stay period for 1 hour pay to park users formerly pay and display in the shared use parking bays for those by use with CPs, there's a lot of, anyway, it creates difficulties for visitors to local businesses who may require parking for longer periods of the time during the CPZ operational times. As a result of these concerns, the Council proposes the removal of the maximum stay period from a section of the shared use parking bays, and this is Sutton Court Road, apologies, not the Grove Park Piazza, but the road, the picture you showed me was Park Road, was it not? Yes. Oh, that was Piazza. Okay, apologies. I'll send that piece through to Chaz. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Giles. I mean, this actually goes on to a much wider issue, which I see you, and I'll come to you in a second. A much wider issue, which was actually raised directly to you, Councillor Giles, in the previous area forum by a resident on Thames Road who, amongst other things, explained how exacerbating it was for actually vehicles to go to his part of town, especially Ubers and taxis and boats. And I think Sam Hearn did raise the fact that it seems that the council is making making it very difficult for transport vehicles to get across most of Chiswick. Do you remember that item? Yes. Perhaps I could welcome you to comment back on that. But first, I'll go to there's a resident on the floor.
I don't know if now is the right place to raise this, but since the police are here, 20 mile an hour speed limit which is in force, I think, across the whole of Chiswick, I think even Chiswick High Road, it is blithely ignored. It's blithely ignored by buses. It's blithely ignored by taxis. It's blithely ignored by the very, very, very many motorists. It's blithely ignored by cyclists, some of whom can cycle faster than that. It's blithely ignored by people on those electric, whatever you call them. It's a real, real menace. Wavendon Avenue, which is where I live, Barrowgate Road, which is the road next to me, parallel, is a very, very long road and a very straight road. And you can almost see from one end of it to the other. And motorists tend to think, I'm assuming, oh, I've got a clear run here, can't see any other vehicles in the way. I will just steam between one end of Wavendon Avenue and the other end of Wavendon Avenue. The people in Wavendon Avenue got together and approached the local authority and asked if we could have speed cameras, and we were told that it was not possible, it was too expensive. And one of the responses was, well, nobody's been killed yet, which a cat was actually killed last year. A cat may not be as important as a person, but it was somebody's pet cat, and they were very upset about it. We need something, if you go south of the A4, down towards Grove Park, Sutton Court Road, etc., there are lots and lots of those smiley faces, which have a very, very upturned mouth when you're going faster than 20 miles an hour, and a smiley when you're at or below 20 miles an hour. I don't know why we don't have those north of the A4. And if we can't have those, can we have some sort of a that warns the drivers themselves, but in order to find out to what extent the 20 mile an hour speed limit is being breached, could we not have one of those, you can have things like rubber strips across the road that record the speed of cars. It's a real shame that we live in a very, very, very nice area. It's a nice walkable area, but it is being spoilt by drivers, both local drivers and non-local drivers, who simply refuse to accept that it's okay to drive at 20 miles an hour.
Thank you so much. Very well put, very eloquently put. Just want to make sure we've moved properly off the first subject, which was raised by Sam Hearn. Was there any closing remarks on that before we go back to the 20 miles? Perfect. Okay, very valid point, and I want to acknowledge that you did approach me before the meeting, that you raised this very important marker. Can I, interestingly, Sam, you had your hand up, Sam Hearn, who originally interjected. Would you like to add a further comment whilst we get ourselves prepared for our response?
Thank you. I can remember when I was sitting up there and the 20 mile an hour idea was first proposed. And I can remember being shouted down when I said, well, you can put the 20 mile an hour limits in, but who's going to enforce them? And that, my name is Samuel, and I proved to be prophetic. People who want to drive over 20 miles an hour do drive at over 20 miles an hour. It would require a huge police force or an awful lot of cameras to stop it. The idea of those flashing indicators that show people that drive over 20 miles an hour, there are, as I understand it, things might have moved forward, but there are two models. And before we had the barrier that bisects Staveley Road, we did have one of those signs put up because we had pleaded with Hounslow Council that there would be deaths. So they installed the cheapest sign. There is research on these signs, and even the most expensive signs, which make much more of an alert, much more of an impact, still have a very tiny proportion, the research shows, has a very tiny effect on the average speeds that people drive down a road. So I don't think spending the money on those is a good idea. I'm not saying I have the answer, but I'm just pointing out that the solutions are not clear.
Thank you, Sam. I'll come to you, Councillor Bidoff.
Thank you, Chair. The good news is that they are north of the A4. They are in the northernmost bit of Chiswick Gunnersbury Ward, along Princess Avenue and the Ridgeway. They went in about 6 months ago, I think. And the reports that I've had is that they're making no difference whatsoever. And that's one of the reasons why there's a hesitation to put them in. I don't know if they're the more expensive version or the cheaper version, but I think they largely go on and appeal to people who are naturally trying not to speed anyway. I think they're just preaching to the converted. But I do think it's worth having the strips across Wavendon so that there can be a record at the traffic team of how many cars are doing, how fast they're driving. The other thing about those strips is that they don't actually record the lowest speeds. So people who are complying will not be exposed, and therefore the numbers of cars going down your road won't reflect the reality. So there's a flaw wherever you look. But let's explore that. The three of us can look into that.
Yes, just 1 second. 1 second. That'll be really good, actually. P.S. Gareth O'Donnell.
Yeah, so it is quite difficult to enforce. There's not that many of us. We do have officers now trained using speed guns. I was just having a look, it was 4 days ago. We had officers out. We're working with we've got one officer in Chiswick and one officer in Acton that can use the speed gun that we've now got one. So they did 4 days ago, they did a bit of a joint operation where they were in Acton and Chiswick. I couldn't tell you which road, I wasn't in on the day. So not 100% what roads they were on, but they were out in the 20-mile-an-hour zones with the speed gun. We will be doing more of that. But when we're there, they'll slow down. When we're not there, they'll speed up again. It's without traffic's calming measures or speed bumps or like the chicanes. It's not easy to enforce. That's the problem.
Thank you. I'm going to disagree a little bit with some of my colleagues here and say I think personally that those traffic calming measures do work. I'm speaking from experience as someone who drives and cycles. If I see that smiley face frowning at me, I do slow down. I do slow down. And you know what? Just because we haven't had an incident doesn't mean it hasn't worked. We've probably saved a life somewhere by somebody just slowing down. So I do think that we don't need to have an incident in order for us to know whether something works or not. It certainly works for me, and I think we share a lot of commonalities amongst everybody here. And if it works for me, I'm sure it works for some of you here in this room. So I would disagree that we probably need these traffic calming. So Pamela, I do agree with you in this one. But I go to Councillor Giles.
So I can't really talk to the north of the A4, seeing as it's not my patch. But what we have noticed in the South Chiswick, or in Grove Park and Strand Green, is that it's one of those things that the fewer cars on the road, the higher the speeds. And we have seen it. As a result of the funding raised, we have been able to get some of those signs put up with the smiley faces. I think the first ones went in facing the wrong direction. But in order for the council to put down the strips, they need the money to do that, which I suppose some would argue they've got now, that the money's been raised from Hartington Road and Stavey Road. For Grove Park and what's now considered the South Chiswick area, there was going to be a full speed review starting to take place in late January 2025, as we were promised back in April 2023. But this is all part of the wider traffic challenges that we are trying to work with the council with. So thank you.
Thank you so much. We have a gentleman in the audience.
Hi. For completely different reasons, I was looking at this tonight. I think
I'd encourage the councillors to have a think about the behavioural aspects of speeding. The reason that people speed on certain roads is that they believe that the speed limits on other roads are wrong. Namely, if you put a 20-mile-per-hour limit throughout the borough and people think that that's the wrong limit, they think all 20-mile-per-hour limits are wrong. And as it comes to enforcement, this is one area where you can't actually put the finger on the police for doing nothing. Because I happen to be looking at the stats tonight, but in 2019 there were 200,000 20-mile-per-hour enforcements in the whole of London. That's now running at 900,000 per year. There are only 2.5 million cars in London. So I'd suggest that actually one needs to be thinking about, you know, as I say, other measures like behaviours rather than actually driving people off the road. For various reasons, I get contacted by people quite regularly now who basically being, you know, essentially close to totting up or are totting up, and it's impacting their lives, it's impacting their jobs, and it's impacting the productivity of the economy.
Okay, thank you so much. And I think that's a good point. I mean, the blanket 20 miles per hour perhaps isn't the right approach, but residential roads, as Pamela has raised on Wavendon Avenue, having traffic calming measures around schools, I think that's actually a valid point. But I do take what you said, that's absolutely correct. It's about behavior change. And where do we do that? Do we do that in the driving test centres, or do we do it through advertising, or through other means? I'll let you come back to that with the response, and then I'll ask the councillors too.
My point is, Ron, that if you have blanket 20 miles per hour, people will see that as the wrong speed limit, and therefore they will disrespect the speed limit outside schools and in places like Wavendon where it should be enforced. Most people I know who are frankly very annoyed at receiving 20-mile-per-hour tickets are caught doing 25 in a 20 on a dual carriageway or a triple carriageway, or very typically 3 out of the last 4 that have been reported to me were just east of Earls Court, where the limit drops from 30 to 20. And it's becoming a major issue, and it's going to be one of those things that eventually, a bit like the Conservative Party waking up to low traffic neighbourhoods, the Labour Party will wake up to the fact that actually there are a lot of people very cheesed off with being banned.
Here, here. Any comments on that? PC O'Donnell? No? Okay. I'll go back to Sam Hearn first.
We were told the 20-mile-an-hour limits should come in, was that having different limits on different roads was confusing for drivers, and that there were roads obviously outside of schools or residential streets close to schools. That was the argument for having 20 miles an hour in pretty much every residential street in London. We have to remember, I think it was mentioned anyway, that there are certain streets which are residential but are rat runs, to use a non-technical term, where people are trying to move very quickly during the rush hour to get around, and if they do come across a pedestrian, a child, whatever, it can be very dangerous.
To the lady in front.
Hi, thank you. I just wondered if anybody ever looks at the possibility of how to prevent cyclists from breaking the rules of the road, which they do every single time I go out. I've actually been run off the road by a cyclist hanging onto my boot because I was going at 20 miles an hour, and they wanted to go by, and they were going at least 30 miles an hour, as they do up and down the high road as well, where they don't stop, where they don't acknowledge anybody trying to cross over in front of them. And there's an awful lot of issues, and as a driver, I'm terrified I'm going to do something. You know, I'm so careful all the time, but I can't account for the really atrocious behaviour of the majority of cyclists. And I just wondered if the police or anybody thinks that we will be able to register bikes. Getting them to wear high vis would be really helpful, because in the roads around Grove Park, where it's so poorly lit at night, you cannot see a cyclist on a dark bike or wearing dark clothes. So wearing high vis would be very helpful, but they should be identifiable, and then there would be more of a fairness between the different forms of transport on the road.
Please, PC Garfordon.
I mean, in relation to what cyclists have to wear and them being registered, that's a much higher government level. That's not a local decision that would be made, or that was something that Parliament would have to pass legislation on. Policing them, there are laws around sort of red lights and pavements and things. The problem we have as police is if we're out on foot, they're gone before we can stop them. If we're in a vehicle, they're off down the cycle lane while we're in the car, and it's hard to stop them. We did an operation a few weeks ago, set up, but because of the health and safety around it, we have to wear high-vis jackets because we're going into roads to stop people, so they see us from a distance, and then they stop at the lights, they don't fly through. It's difficult. We will be doing more stuff around it, but yeah, it is quite. I think the problem is there's never really been any enforcement on it on cyclists. The people are just, it's just how, and a lot of cyclists don't do it. They will stop at lights. They won't. But the ones who do go through the lights, who do ride on the pavements, because they've never had any enforcement on it, they just do it. Mm. I mean, very vaguely, there's like dangerous cycling and things like that, but there's no specific law against it.
Great, thank you. Yeah, just to say, not all cyclists break the laws, and some of us do wear helmets, and it's not all cyclists. It's just, and you got to think about some of the higher bikes as well. Line bikes. These are also cyclists, so it's very, and they don't have helmets. Yeah. Okay, thank you. No, thank you. I understand. I'll go back to the gentleman, because actually I think you came on a bike, sir. You came on a bike.
Yeah, I came on my Brompton. I think that until the police actually try and enforce some control around the cycle lane in particular, where red light jumping is just pandemic, it just happens all the time, apart from my trip down here tonight, then nothing's going to happen. Whereas what the police do, somewhat cynically I would say, and rather unethically I think too, is on the Monday morning after half term, you were out at 8 o'clock with your speed gun on the Bath Road, because that was important to you. And part of the reason that there's been such a massive growth in 20-mile-per-hour enforcement is that if you get a speed awareness course, the police make money out of it. And equally, the prosecution of 20-mile-per-hour offences now is being pursued through the single justice procedure and levied with a court fine based on your income rather than a fixed penalty notice in many instances, which again is a choice of the police and to a degree probably more so the judiciary. But is essentially a tacit tax raise. But I'm curious as to whether on Monday the 6th of January the police, somebody in Hounslow Police will have decided that the best use of resource is to get somebody out at 8 o'clock in the morning with a speed gun on a 20-mile-per-hour limit, catching people on their first day back to school, or whether their time might be better spent either enforcing dangerous cycling or perhaps looking for my stolen car, which they haven't got round to doing anything about yet.
Very much. I think I will leave last word for Councillor Bidoff, and then we'll end.
Thank you. Just picking up on a point that slipped out there about Conservatives being slow to the problems of low-traffic neighbourhoods. It's certainly true that one key Conservative in a very influential position promoted them, but here in Chiswick, we were extremely swift to act against them, working in concert with local community groups that I know you know about. Sam was leader at the time, and we were very fast to object to the first one here, and we remain objectors to low-traffic neighbourhoods. So just want to put the record straight. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we can't solve that problem here today. No, I'm afraid we have to move on. We thank you so much for that. We're going to move to agenda item 6, which is the issue tracker. For everyone in the audience, this is the... Number 5. Is it number 5? Oh, I beg your pardon. Agenda item 5, which is the issue tracker. So just anyone in the audience watching, this is just when we look at some of the items that we have been raised previously, and they are being followed up by councillors as part of their remit. And just want to see if there's any updates on those issues. It's quite a quick run through, so if you want to hang around, you can. So should we move on to the issue tracker? Okay, the first one is the enforcement of abandoned e-bikes. That's something that... yeah, any updates on which Councillor Thompson, who's not here, I'm afraid, so we cannot progress any further. But on a second item, the second item, which is zebra crossing.
Yes, I can update you on that. I spoke to...
One second.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, press the button. On zebra crossing at Fisher's Lane, I'm going to ask Councillor Bidoff to give us an update, but also Councillor Bidoff, maybe this is a good opportunity to also mention that the road, Windmill Road, that was done after many, many years of campaigning on that. Perhaps you can put the two together into this issue tracker.
I think you've just done Windmill Road yourself, which is great. Campaigning for years. It was the first campaign that we took up in 2017 before we were elected. It's taken that long to get Windmill Road, quite a short road, resurfaced. It's been patched awfully for the longest duration. Anyway, success, and thank you to Hounslow Highways for getting around to doing it. On to the zebra crossing at Fisher's Lane, I spoke to Wilmot Dixon, who are the builders, today, and they have advised that it's a question of timing. These zebras were needed because it's a three-way stretch going from, for example, Homecross House and Jessup House, where older people tend to live and tend to move more slowly, trying to get to the pharmacist on the other side or to Boots or wherever it is on the high road. They were included in the development proposals after years and years and years of not being able to get it on the traffic and transport team's agenda. We got it onto the planning agenda. They will be going in. The question of timing is that if you put down a zebra crossing when it's either too wet or too cold, it doesn't last and it has to come back up again. So in the spring, when the weather has improved, they will be installed, 3 of them.
Excellent work, Councillor Bidoff, and well done on Windmill Road, as well as my colleague here, Councillor Gill. Councillor Bidoff, I can ask you again for the... Can I ask Councillor Bidoff again, just on a second issue that is in your in-tray, about the Fix My Street app. Any progress there?
I haven't had an update. What I did do was provide examples to Hounslow Highways of messages when people receive the closed message after reporting something and it hasn't been done. I have given examples of the sorts of messages, or certainly the reasons why they've been closed, to Tim Hurley at Hounslow Highways, because I don't think he understood what we meant when we were talking to him. So I've sent him about 10 or so examples, such as, it's not for us, we pass it on to TfL, or it's not for us, we pass it on to housing, or whatever it happens to be.
Thank you again, Councillor Bidoff. Councillor Giles, do you have anything to go on record with regards
no, there's
to
no
waste?
updates at this
no
time.
No updates there. Okay, we'll move on to contactless card parking. This is something that was raised, I think, and I'm sure Councillor Croft mentioned it as well. Councillor Giles, would you like to?
It's a double act with...
It's a double act with Councillor Bidoff.
Yeah.
Any further updates? I know you mentioned a little bit of it in the open forum.
Yes, we raised it in the Borough Council meeting last week. Both Gabriella and I talked about it. We've both tested it and found that it wasn't free. We had some rebuttal from Labour saying it was free. We had a further rebuttal in the Borough Council meeting when Gabriella was told that actually it's a 15p charge for a text alert, so warning you when your end of time is coming up, so you can either pay again or pay or whatever it happens to be. But it's not clear what you have to do. It's not clear that that charge is being made, and Councillor Giles correctly asked for some education around this. So it's over to the council for that.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's something else that isn't clear, is the petition at Abinger Road. Councillor McGregor, can you give us some clarity on this, please?
Apropos of Wavendon and Barrowgate, I understand the issues about speeding and issues there, because we're raising the same issues through a petition in Abinger Road. I followed this up and got a very poor answer from Traffic and Transport. They said they had no resources to handle that, and it wasn't on their traffic plan. So trying to get a report done on speed was not regarded as terribly important by the officer corps whom I contacted, who were meant to be taking the petition on board and dealing with it. The petition was put into the council, was eventually put into Traffic and Transport, and I never got a confirmation.
Thank you, Councillor McGregor. On the next item, that was to do with reinstating the full number 27 bus route in Chiswick. I'm afraid to say I failed in that endeavour. Within days of the last meeting we had here, I was told by TfL representatives that there wasn't enough demand for the 27 bus to be brought all the way back to Chiswick Park. I will continue to keep an eye on those demands that keep coming in. Please do write to me if you are listening to this, watching this later. The more emails I guess I'll get in my inbox on this, the more perhaps I can have another chat with the TfL. TfL advisors. Councillor Giles.
Ron, it's probably worth noting on the record that as part of the SIL money, that paid for the extension of the 27 bus routes from Turnham Green to the business park, and then as part of the review of bus services down Chiswick High Road, the 27 bus was removed in order to make sure that bus service along Chiswick High Road with the removal of the bus lane was going to be made efficient. So it had to be removed, so there's very little chance of TfL reinstating it due to the removal of the bus lane.
Thank you for that clarification. I feel worse. And finally, the installation of the lift at Turnham Green train station and Piccadilly line to be regularly stopping at Turnham Green. This was something that was taken up by the whole team, is it? Or is there somebody who took it? Who took this? It's still ongoing, so we'll keep it on. Is there anything we need to remove? So are you suggesting, Councillor Giles, that I remove the reinstating of the 27 bus based on your information there? Okay, based on the information you've given me, we'd like to remove that item and hopefully live to fight another day.
Chair, could we add to the list?
And now, but we invite more things to be added instead. So go ahead, Councillor Abido.
Hogarth Roundabout.
Such excitement.
Could you give us a bit?
Yes, the Hogarth Roundabout, where there are various proposals. The closure of Church Street is one of them, but also general access to it from people in Chiswick, and the limitations that are going to be imposed if it is introduced as TfL plans. Should we record that we have met with Keith Prince from the GLA, and he was going to take it up with Seb Dance, and he put a motion to the GLA, which was successful, absolutely. So I think it's something for us to continue to watch and to encourage Keith to bring Seb Dance back. Well, not back, but bring him to us. Could I also add recycling of flats above shops? The person who raised that has actually left, I think, already, but it is an issue that has been going on forever. So recycling for flats above shops. And could we also add Gunnersbury Park events, because that's a continuous year-long, year-in, out issue. And maybe we should add Wavendon speed. Okay.
Let's keep 3 for now, and Wavendon we can go in case by case as follow-up. Yeah. Okay, those 3 are very valid, and hopefully it's been minuted and will be added on to that. Okay, we now move on to. Everything's been noted. Yeah. Is that noted? Yep. Okay, noted. We now move on to minutes of the previous meeting. We're nearly there. Has everybody had a look? Agreed?
Yep.
Agreed? Fantastic. And then any urgent business from anybody? Okay, you have to be notified in advance for those. Hang on 1 second. So therefore, no urgent business to be recorded. It leaves me, hopefully, if I can ask PC or Donald to come back for a photo at the end. The meeting is now closed. And I want to thank everybody for sticking around and for listening to such wonderful presentations, including from Sally. And this is more to help with the youth, W4 Youth program, if we can have Sally here alongside the councillors as part of the ongoing efforts that you're doing for W4 Youth. So thank you so much, everybody. The meeting is now closed. Thank you for your participation.